Hey everybody, welcome to Build the Kingdom, where we talk lifestyle, real estate, and business. Real stories to help you imitate success and avoid lessons. I hope you enjoy the show. What is going on, everybody? Today I have a great new friend of mine hopping on, doing some really amazing stuff in the real estate space, a very interesting niche I'm excited to talk about, something that I think is extremely slept on, extremely needed. It's the assisted living space with Serg Lupescu. How you doing, Serg?
What's up, brother? Such a pleasure connecting with you, and appreciate Rich Summers for connecting us. And yeah, man, I'm happy to be here and hopefully drop some really good value for everybody.
Of course, dude. Yeah, the meeting last week to, hey, I'll drive across the valley and do a podcast, just shows how great of a dude you are. So
No.
I know it's always important to meet great like-minded individuals, people who are, onto the right thing, doing well in business in terms of being accountable and morals and ethics. But yeah, it's always great to also, meet new friends and find trusted people in the community. And as soon as we met at the car show, the Barrett Jackson car show, saw the McLaren, I was like, Serg is on to some good stuff, man.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And likewise, man, it's like, that's one thing about being part of communities and being able to like work with the right people, because, at the end of the day, they're going to connect you with like-minded individuals who inspire you, which like I know, just even talking with you in the short period of time that we've like known each other and stuff. I love everything you got going on with this podcast, even the name of it. I'm a faith-based entrepreneur. Like, God is everything to me.
Love that.
And so it's just, not everybody has to think like that or believe in that. But for me, being able to just share that along the journey that I've had in entrepreneurship and everything that he's blessed me and allowed me to be a steward of is awesome.
That's awesome, dude. It's something that we hold close to our hearts. Built the brand Kingdom Cribs based off of God's kingdom, and then the podcast Build the Kingdom. It's not necessarily, I firmly believe that the kingdom is already built, the kingdom will already come, but we get to play a small part in trying to, bring joy and life to this world. And so Build the Kingdom kind of has the tie to the Kingdom Cribs brand, but then also the bringing people in and just sharing, again, good-hearted, well-rounded individuals who are making a difference in what I think is making the world a better place. So
no, I love that.
Yeah,
that's why I'm here, man.
Awesome.
I want to help inspire other people, and yeah, we'll jump into it, dude.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, so super excited to chat today. Not just only to share with the listeners what you're up to. I think you had mentioned close to 26 million assets under management now.
Yeah.
But yeah, also just talking shop on what I shared walking down the hallway, dude. I'm really excited to see that you had mentioned your 3 successes. One of them, the first one, marrying your wife, starting a family. And then also just kind of chatting how, again, I'm interested in maybe figuring out how to do some deals, dude. Cause every little conversation we have, I'm like, this just makes more sense. So, yeah, we'll talk on a ton of stuff, your avenue, how to get there, right? The who, what, when, where, hows, and whys of what made you pick this. Because you don't hear of many people in assisted living. So you always wonder kind of the how you got there. But yeah, dude, I know a big part of it is the 30 to 40 million baby boomers that are floating out there towards retirement. So yeah, man, why don't you share with everybody just how you got into the assisted living space, what encouraged you to make that move, and go from there.
For me so I started my very first facility. It was a 5-bed facility out in Mesa, Arizona. In January of 2018 is when I moved out here to Arizona from Missouri. And I had just graduated nursing school. And during my time in nursing school and just also working as a CNA in the neurotrauma ICU at the hospital I was working at, I was working as a CNA from 18 to pretty much 22.
Okay.
And I would do weekends, night shift there. And during that process and also going through nursing school, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of veteran nurses, and a lot of them would tell me, sir, just get out of nursing. Like, you don't want to be in this career. And I would always wonder that. I'm like, why are you guys telling me? And these are people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s at this point.
So they've been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah. So they're way ahead of me and they're telling me this. So I'm like, there's always wisdom in that. And as I started talking with them more and realizing, they would tell me, "Hey, sir, this is what's going to happen after you get out of nursing school and you end up going down this path. You're going to start making decent money. You're going to end up getting a mortgage. You're likely going to get married. You're then going to start having kids. And then what you realize is with them, without saying it, would tell me we're trapped, right? We get capped off on what we could make. So they were all working weekends, nights. The reason being is because they would get the weekend differential and the night shift differential. And all they had to do is work 3 days out of the week. And they'd make way more than anybody else. And that isn't those aren't easy shifts to get. Like you really have to wait, and you have to wait until these people either retire or move on to different jobs to be able to have that position. And so, yeah, I just realized, I was like, okay, let me just finish up nursing school, but how can I take this nursing degree and go start something? As I was thinking more about it, one of the colleagues I was working with, he's actually still a good friend of mine and an investor of mine to this day. And he's a nurse and still is a nurse to this day. He's like, dude, why don't you go do this residential assisted living thing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And just kept looking more into it. And I knew out here, it was just a very popular business, especially within the Romanian Filipino community, which I'm first generation Romanian.
Okay.
So my dad immigrated here in the 80s from communism in Romania. And so I knew this was a big niche out here within our community. I'm like, well, I have my nursing degree now. I speak very fluent English. I have no accent whatsoever. And you'll come to find out a lot of people in these businesses do not speak very good English and have accents. And there's just all these pros of me being like, man, I can come in here and just crush. And, that's me being naive. But once I moved out here, made the move out here after nursing school, yeah, I just was like, where do I start? I was 22 years old. I was very young and very naive. And within the first 3 months, man, got scammed $20,000. That was my intro to business.
And what happened there? How did you, because I know that's a big part of why people look into real estate. Sometimes you run into that first problem and 99% of people say it doesn't work. So what kept you, I guess, how'd you run into that? But then what kept you in the 1% where you pushed through it?
So what happened was when I came out here, one of my mom's old colleagues approached her and was like, hey, I know you guys are like, your son's trying to do this and get into this space. I can help him guide him, but I'm going to need, money up front. There were no contracts signed, none of that. It was all just based off of trust. And I didn't know this person and my mom knew them. And so I was like, well, if my mom trusts them, I'm going to trust them. Right. I'm 22 years old. I'm still kind of like getting my feet wet with everything. And so come to find out, we go ahead and we pay her. And she was supposed to provide all the policies and procedures, supposed to provide all the documentation to be able to get licensed and get my first home up and running. And we'll come to find out all of that was just, none of it was useful. It was all just a scam. And because there were no contracts written up, there was nothing I could go back to like even try to recoup anything. I had to just swallow it. And the one thing that kept me going was I knew God had called me out here, and I knew that deep down, and he had put that calling on my life. And I would always tell myself during that period, and even other hard periods that I've gone through since then, but I would always say to myself, God, you've brought me this far. You're not going to let me down this time.
Love that, dude.
And I was so determined to not go back to work, like to Missouri, and then also back to like having to go get a job. I knew that wasn't the path for me. And God just gave me the courage and the faith. And trust me, I wanted to give up multiple times, man. I would lay down at my facility and just be like, I just want to give up. Like, this is not working. And I would just get up every single day. And I would just tell myself, if I could just get up every single day and just keep doing what I can do, that's in my control, I'll eventually get through this. And that's what happened. I ended up having to go get my manager certification to run this type of facility. Ended up running into the person that ultimately helped me be able to license my home. And then 2 months later, after that whole situation, had my home license, started filling my beds. And I was still wearing multiple hats. I was still doing caregiving. I was still doing marketing, tours, and missions, everything that goes into starting this type of facility and running it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 22. I had no obligations. I was like, I'm gonna just give it my all and not give up. And that's what I did, man.
And it paid off.
It paid off big time. The first 2 years were, and then I started my YouTube channel because of that. I realized I was like, man, I can't be the only one struggling with this. And I more so wanted to document kind of my whole progress with it. And I didn't have like this grandiose idea of creating a personal brand out of it
Mm-hmm.
and what that would eventually become. I just was like, it's gotta help somebody. And I would get made fun of, man. People would tell me, dude, who's gonna listen to a 22-year-old talking about this business on YouTube? And it was slow going. I mean, it took me 9 months to reach 1,000 subscribers and then to eventually get monetized. And it took, and I would upload for the first 3 months of running my business, doing the YouTube thing. I would upload literally every day for 3 months.
Wow.
And then just to push content, just to share what I was going through. And I think it was a really good outlet for me
Mm-hmm.
to allow my frustration and even just my creative side of my brain to
the digital diary, the
Yeah.
digital notebook / diary.
dude, and it's crazy. I love it because it's like one day my kids will be able to go back and see that and be like, man, dad really did go through that.
Yeah.
Dad really, like, there's the proof in the
Yeah.
pudding, you know. So
The raw and authentic steps, because way too many people see the jet setter lifestyle, social medias, and I'm trying to get better at it. I really am. Even in life, just communication and not coming to people with just the highs, but talking about the lows too.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's what works, and that's what I've heard so much about is, if you have the number one, the drive to start a business, to showcase what it looks like, to fight through the things, you have to understand the bads are always going to outweigh and outnumber the goods.
Yeah.
In terms of things you're going to have to fight through. How you respond to those is a different story,
Correct.
in the biggest part. But yeah, dude, it's the emotional side is what I'll always tell people that ask me questions, right? We're earlier in, we're again, as I shared, we're at the crossroads. We're figuring out, which niche we really want to pick. But everybody just kind of asked, what's one of the keys? And I said, controlling emotions is huge. I love the book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Great book. Just learning how, chemicals hit the brain. First place they hit is emotion. Second is logic. So fighting through the emotion to getting to the logic, which is a sure tell shot at business. And everybody caves, or 99% of people cave when something goes bad.
Yep.
Or somebody breaks something in their house, or somebody accidentally sets the kitchen on fire and you have a $500, $1,000 fix to the cabinets, and
Yep.
So many people will cave, but again, I'll have to check into the channel more and see some of those early stage 22-year-old videos,
It's
man.
not beautiful, but
And that's
it's
also the best part is unedited, early in my podcast journey here, I'm doing the editing and I'm not going through and cutting a ton of stuff. I'm just getting it out there. So that way I can look back when I do have the professional editing and I can just be like, man, I was just ripping them, dude. I was throwing the intro on it, throwing the outro, throwing the part in the middle where I'll cut it down to right where we kick it off and right where we end it. I do a little blended fade into each one. I throw it up, man.
Yep.
So that's a big part about the content, is just making sure you're consistently getting it out there. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for me, I mean, I kept running the business, kept putting out the YouTube, and I did that so I sold that first one, my 5-bed, in 2022. So I did get to operate during COVID. That was a crazy situation. In 2019, I lived out of my car for 6 months because what had happened was I realized, I was like, okay, I had an apartment I couldn't afford. And so obviously my 1-year lease was up. So I moved into my car for 6 months, and then I ended up connecting with my old colleague, the one I was telling you about that I used to work with. And he was like, dude, you're doing this. This is crazy. I didn't realize you were actually going to leave and like go do this. Cause for 6 months, he had no idea where I went after I graduated. And so he came out and was like, well, how can we work together? I got the capital, you're out there. What opportunities are out there? And so at the time I was like, well, I do want to scale my facilities, but like maybe we do something not as capital intensive, just because I didn't have that much capital to go in on something, and we ended up doing an Airbnb together.
Okay.
And so I sourced the property, put it all together in 2019, moved out from my car into the guest house portion of the Airbnb property, and ended up operating that and the 5-bed at the same time. And then 2020 hit, and that's where I had a little bit of a shiny object syndrome with the Airbnb thing because people were doing it. It was starting to become big then.
2% interest rates.
Yeah,
Throw
and
IKEA for the overhead of starting out was super low.
So low. I think we were all in with because I used my first home owners because it was my first property. So we put 5% down, and then to like start up everything, it was like we were all in like $35K.
Yeah. And now it's the 20% down payment plus what my wife and I recommend. You want to be top 5% in the market and get that guest favorite badge, you got to put in $10K per bedroom. So 4-bedroom house, $40K for decor.
Minimum.
Right. And we're not talking just the bedrooms. We're talking 4-bedroom house, $40K will get indoor, outdoor furniture, kitchen, like everything you need, pots, pans. So $40K would be the $10K per bedroom is the level you need to get to. Again, you will see the return on that. You will fight in any market to be a top performer if you can invest that much, but there's no longer the throw the IKEA furniture in the unit and make it work and cash flow $2,000 a month. Like you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, we were crushing it from 2019 until COVID hit in March, right, of 2020. And what had happened during that period is like my assisted living was crushing when COVID hit.
That 5-bed?
The 5-bed. But then I lost like over $7K in bookings because of COVID, right? Because Airbnb canceled everybody's reservations. Like it just was a complete disaster. And I had a realization, an epiphany of I need to double down on my assisted living. And so we kept the Airbnb for a couple months, and then the market just shot up like crazy. And we had all this equity. At the time, I didn't want to continue running the Airbnb. I wanted to double down on my assisted living stuff. So we ended up selling. We both made a great return on that. And we never took distros out of it. We just kept stashing it away. And so when we finally sold, I mean, it was just like, it was gravy.
So you 1031 that into?
No, I took the hit. I mean, my portion was $17K.
Okay.
And then that $17K, I think I walked away with like 50 something thousand. So I made like a $30K profit on that deal in a year and a half. And to me, dude, that was money.
22 years old?
I'm 20. Yeah, I'm 23 at that 23? Time. And to me, I'm like, dude, I just did my first JV deal without even realizing it. And, I'm like, to me, it opened my eyes of like, wow, how do I do this at scale? And so I took that money. I did like this weird short-term thing of like traveling in a van for a couple months while still running my 5-bed. And I bought that van at such a good deal that I ended up making 10K profit. One oil change, I put like 40,000 miles on this thing. And it was the coolest thing ever. And I took all my money from that. And that's when I met my partner now with Valley ALF Ventures, this real estate syndication firm that we have in 2021. And so we ended up partnering up together. And within the first 2 months of partnering up together, we got 3 facilities. We syndicated them and raised capital for them. And that's when I really learned the power of other people's money, but then also like the power of just the right partnership and being able to have the right goals. And from there, we closed a few more deals, and the fall we grew like crazy. From 21 to 23, those first 2 years, we grew quite a bit, and we refined our processes, went through all the like growing pains and all that stuff. And so in 2022, I realized, well, this 5-bed, I've maximized what I could do with it. Ended up selling it, and so went all in on my company now, Valley ALF Ventures, with my partner, and then ended up getting married in 22. So a lot of stuff happened in 2022, big things, and then we ended up having, my wife and I ended up having our firstborn after we got married a year later, and then kept scaling Valley ALF Ventures. And we're still scaling to this day. I mean, we scaled to, I believe, like you said in the beginning, we have $25 million assets under management.
Nice.
And so that was in a span of from 21 to now. So 4 years, really.
Things can happen quick in this industry.
Yes.
In real estate, things can move. A lot of people are like, I don't have money. Come sit down, let's talk. Other people have money, right? OPM.
Lots of people. And there's a lot of different structures and things you can do. And then My wife and I run our own business, which I was telling you about earlier. And so that one, we really started that process back in 23.
Okay.
And so we're like really like starting to take that one off the ground and everything, but that's still in the assisted living healthcare space as well, with everything I have going on. So that's kind of high level
Yeah.
of how things have progressed so quickly.
Who is Serg and how he got there, man? I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Of course.
So let's talk a little on the statistics behind assisted living.
Mhm.
Why do you feel, now that you see some private equity firms knocking on doors and,
Yeah.
and some big dogs trying to get into the industry, that's always a great sign. What have you seen statistics wise with the baby boomer group that is soon to retire, which
Mhm.
is a massive group of individuals that are going to be retiring, looking for assisted living homes? Talk through some of those statistics of what you foresee and the growth in that, just with that
Yeah.
people group.
So as of right now, we're about 1 million beds short. And then that's expected to be closer to 3 to 4 million in the next 5 to 10 years. That's
So
short.
triple to quadruple the size.
Yeah. So there's going to be a massive shortage for the amount of seniors that are going to be needing these types of services in the next 5 to 10 years. And so, like right now, I believe it's 15 million seniors that are over the age of 80. That's just 15. And then that's going to grow to about 25 to 30 million in the
Goodness.
next 5 to 10. So when you take that ratio of how big the shortage is, even today, and then seeing what the shortage is going to be and how many seniors are going to need that service. Because again, everyone's living longer now. I believe the average expectancy for a man is 77 years old. So for that many people to live beyond that, they're gonna need some form of help, whether it just be reminders to take their medications, whether it's to be helped with activities of daily living, of like just simple showers and baths and changing and different things like that, which is what is provided in these non-medical facilities that we get to operate and own. And so seeing that demand, and that's why you're seeing private equity, they're looking at all these statistics as well and seeing how much shortage there is, and that even with the big dogs that are like trying to build and trying to like compensate for this shortage, they won't even be able to meet it. And so what's going to happen, and a lot of the bigger groups that are out there in this space running, facilities that are 200-300 bed facilities, they're already starting to anticipate that there's going to be just bed hold deposits. And that in order for seniors, they may not even need it right now. They may be 65, 70, and they're still fairly independent, fairly they're not moving out of their home anytime soon. But in order for them to actually be able to have those services and be provided that, they're going to have to start putting deposits to hold these places.
Wow. And so I think I had heard on another one of your podcasts that these projects are, if you're looking to build a commercial building, they're backlogged about 5 years.
Yep.
So what do you foresee with what everybody always does is kind of right at the threshold of where it's going to pop, everybody wants to start throwing their money in. So if a lot of people are going to come to the game late, can you foresee what is kind of going on right now with this big co-living push, right? Everybody's wanting to do put as many bedrooms in a house as you can and, rent it by room. Do you foresee that maybe being the move then in the industry? If these big commercial buildings can't go up fast enough and there's going to be such a shortage, are you going to see a lot of single family homes flipping into these projects?
Absolutely. And that's what residential assisted living is, right?
Yep.
And it's really single family residences that get zoned, get permitted, and then get licensed through state regulatory boards to be able to operate these types of businesses. And so that's what you will see a lot of. And the build cycle, right, if you were to build from scratch, is a lot less with these smaller type facilities rather than these big 300 bed facilities that are going to take 3 to 4, 5, 6 years to build out. Whereas, a smaller community that's maybe less than 50 beds, you could probably, the build cycle is probably half of that, right? 2 to 3 years at most.
And what would a rezoning permits for a single family residential existing home that you may go in and do some renos on, right? Make it up to par. What does a turnaround look like for that? If you're just coming in, you need to rezone, work with the city. What's that look like?
So yeah, if you like, I help investors too that are getting into space that want to just simply be like, hey, look, I want to come in, re-outfit this, rezone it, and maybe lease it to an operator. I mean, to rezone it, reconfigure it for this, about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So,
there's like, even us being in Scottsdale, I mean, I'm helping one investor in McCormick Ranch,
yep.
and he bought it in July. He's already done all the demo. He's already gotten all the permits. So he'll likely be done somewhere around December.
Okay.
Fully zoned, fully sprinklered, fully renovated.
So 6 months turnaround. If let's just say somebody's interested in one of those starter projects, right?
Yep.
Where they're going to do a single family home. They're not ready for this massive, JV
Yeah.
partnership on a 500 bed, assisted living home. What would you say? So your backlog 6 months, which is way better than 5 years,
Yeah.
right? For somebody who's on their first project. What do beds go for a, let's call it a 5 bed home, maybe here in the Scottsdale area? What could you push those beds for?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they're going to be interested in like, what's my ROI? Like, when am I going to get my
Right.
money back? Knowing this is an industry where you can make peak dollar.
Yeah.
What do those beds go for?
So what I would tell people, especially if they're looking out here, really, you're going to have to look at your state regulatory, like the regulations, and even from zoning and how many beds you're going to be allowed to actually be able to put it into a residential setting. So like out here, a very common is 10 beds.
Okay.
And so for a 10 bed, right, if you're in the Scottsdale, whether it's the Biltmore area, North Scottsdale, Kierland, a lot of Scottsdale, you're averaging anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 per bed per month. And that's private pay. And that's usually a private room with maybe a half ensuite, meaning a half bath with like a sink and toilet. Or if it's a full ensuite, you're definitely going to be charging, 7 to 8K per bed.
That's solid, man. I recently dove a little bit into, and soon am going to get connected with an individual that works out at Luke Air Force Base, who's the director of housing out there, and the whole fighter pilot training, living in a home, kind of together. They all can bring in about $4,000 to $4,500 a month that they get to spend on just living expenses. So
Wow.
some of those are like, I kind of looked into that and I was like, dang, that's solid. But then obviously double that in assisted living just for one bed, right? Obviously conditions, right? We're probably talking peak design.
Correct.
Everything's redone, right? This isn't just go into a house, repaint, cosmetic.
Correct.
So you got to really make these
It's top
worth
tier
it for the guest.
Yeah. So like, I mean, for out here, right, you got very high end properties in Scottsdale and even just throughout the valley. I mean, I have stuff in Peoria, stuff in the East Valley, but really, yeah, you're not gonna just. It's not like an Airbnb where you're just throwing together some furniture and like, but there's certain components where your best ROI is going to be in the reconfiguration of the property. And typically it's the more bedrooms, right? You want a license for the maximum amount of beds you can get in a residential setting. And what that means is if you can get a home and maybe convert the garage into additional bedrooms that are private bedrooms, you can have shared beds. You can have a minimum of 2 in a 120 square foot bedroom.
Okay.
So, but you can't, if you have a 300 square foot room, you can't put more than 2 beds in that. So at the end of the day, not all residents or clients are going to want to have a roommate. Now, I have had shared beds and I do have facilities that have shared beds, and, we can get into the nitty gritty of that. But really for the average person that's out there trying to like maximize the ROI, is going to be to get the most amount of bedrooms in a property that can license up to 10 beds out here.
Okay.
That would be the best thing. And you don't need to have a bathroom for every room. I have facilities in Central Phoenix that don't have any. It's a 9-bedroom, 3-bath. We're averaging $7K a resident there.
Okay.
Only one room is a shared, but we typically just have 9 residents there, and they all have their own private room and everything.
And so with these room structures, I know co-living, kind of the pad split style right now is 4 bedrooms to 1 bathroom max, right? But
Yeah.
usually like 3 to 1. Being more elderly, do you see a higher need for like less individuals per bathroom, or have you not really run into that? Are you kind of doing a 3 to 1 ratio?
Yeah, it's usually about the same ratio.
Okay.
With assisted living.
And then in these homes, you're figuring out how many rooms you can put in these homes and you're maxing them out. So does that mean in your renovation or demo, you're taking what is an existing living room in a home, building a hallway, splitting that in half, like you're throwing bedrooms and living rooms. So very much the same as
Yep.
the co-living style with the pad split for younger, but just
Correct.
making it look nice. And
Yep.
what's the specs on the bedrooms? I think you have to have at least 120 square feet.
80 square feet.
So 80 square feet.
Yep.
Okay.
80 square feet's the minimum.
Cool. And how would you say from just a standard multifamily conversion, do you notice any differences because of the new zoning, because of the style of property and real estate you're going into? Would you consider the renovations any different than a standard multifamily reno, or does it cost about the same? Again, I'm not very familiar with when you do rezone. I don't know if kind of like flowers for a wedding, right?
Right.
When you go to buy flowers, it might be $15 for the bouquet. But if you say I'm getting wedding flowers, all of a sudden they're $150.
Right.
So I don't know if maybe saying it's assisted living kind of bumps the cost with contractors, things of that sort.
No, not necessarily. I've never dabbled in multifamily. I don't know what it costs per unit for them to like get it to, but what I would say with assisted living, I mean, for the most part, if you're doing like a good renovation on an older property and you're gutting it, etc., you're spending anywhere from about 100 to 200K on average.
Okay.
To add additional bedrooms, to get it sprinklered and fire paneled, adding, maybe a bathroom or two or even multiple. But that's kind of working with investors and going through that renovation process. Even for us, I mean, we've renovated bathrooms and made them all ADA compliant, roll-in showers, different things like that, added all new flooring throughout, did some other stuff. And I mean, the cheapest we've ever done it for is about 60K, but that's because the property was already had the bedrooms and we went in there, just gave it a facelift,
Yeah.
right? We took all the carpet out, added all new flooring, took all the 2 bathrooms that weren't ADA, made them fully ADA. So we spent about $60,000 there.
Okay.
In doing that.
And what would you see as a typical return on investment? So I know a lot of people get into real estate. A comfortable window is 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 years, I'll make my money back. Obviously, each bed going for 6 to 8K.
About 2 years.
I was going to say could cut that in half at least.
Yes.
Which is a huge benefit. Something my wife and I, about 2.5 years, our Airbnb had a return on investment, which is
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a huge blessing.
Yeah.
That our first one, we had no idea what we were doing, drinking through a fire hose. Again, I shared with you, bought the home with the intention to live in it. We're getting married 3 months later. We're like, let's go in and renovate this thing. We were getting married on Super Bowl weekend when the Super Bowl was here in Phoenix, and we were flying to the Dominican. So free marriage counseling, ripping a house apart together, permitted in the right way. We did all the right things. The local city here did not believe so, but followed all the rules, never got the red tag, kept operating as is. And
Yeah.
the process of that, and then thinking, oh, hey, let's just try to rent this while we're gone. We're gone for the Super Bowl. Let's rent it. It worked out. And we're like, oh my gosh, this could be a thing. And we even throw a pool in there, a year and a half, 2 years in. And after about 2.5 years, we saw that ROI. So that's always a very optimistic and perfect situation.
Right.
But
Best case.
Yeah, best case. Thankfully, we didn't have to run into the surge situation where, early on we hit that roadblock and had to fight through it. But having the niche in real estate to be able to have an ROI in 2 years is something significant that I think a lot of people should have more eyes on. But it's not glamorous, right? Like people don't think, oh, I don't get this Instagrammable STR house that like all these people are showing up to. It's like, I'm just taking care of people who need help later in life, Yeah. So,
and the saying goes, it's the unsexy businesses that always do the best, right? And this is a very, and not only is it niche specific, you definitely need a heart for it.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not only dealing with the residents, but then their families.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to come situations and scenarios where you have to talk through a death.
Yep.
You have to talk through grandma fell and maybe she broke a hip or maybe she got injured. You have to talk through with your staff. There's so many components to it where it's not just as the real estate side of it is great.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly is a pro, and but if you're getting on the operations side, you definitely need a heart, because with our real estate syndication firm, we're strictly on the real estate side, right? Yes, we have some ownerships and like operations, but we're not fully operating on, in a lot of those cases where it's strictly like real estate. And so, but me being on the operations side of it and understanding and knowing what goes into it, I tell everybody in my community and just people that I consult and mentor, I'm like, look, it's like, you got to really truly have a heart, because you're gonna have hard times.
Yeah.
And there's gonna come moments where you do doubt yourself, and you do want to just be like, is this really worth it? And it's like we were talking about earlier, it's the psychology of it. I was listening to this one guy, Dan Sandrazone, I believe is his name. He's based out of Missouri, but he's a big real estate industrial developer. But he's like, one thing I would recommend to real estate investors, if like someone young came to me, what advice would I give him if he was going to go to college, and what degree he should get? And he said psychology. And he's like, because of what you were speaking to earlier, it's the emotion side of it. And that goes for even business, honestly, and not just real estate. I think it goes across the board, is understanding the psychology of being able to be the one person in the room when everything else is falling apart. You're keeping your cool, and you're understanding like this is just a temporary situation. And it truly always is a temporary situation. Even in real estate, we've had situations where last year we had a partnership go south really badly, to where we had hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen. Mortgage fraud was, we had a crazy situation. And I remember when it first happened, for a week straight, man, I was so upset. And I was so upset, and I had all these other blessings in my life. I had two healthy boys, amazing wife, like business didn't just fall apart. It just was a situation that happened. And for a week, man, and then my wife just told me, like, you need to chill out. Like, you need to get out of this slump. And I remember, I forgot what it was, but like one of my boys, they're 3 and 2 now, but at the time they're, I think, 2 and 1. And I just kind of like got so upset, and I felt so horrible over this maybe he did something. I got so upset. And I remember going into my office and just sitting there like, why am I being like this? Like why is this bothering me so much? And it was just God literally just speaking into me and being like, who's the real like God in your life? Is it me, or is it money?
Yeah. Yep.
And it was just that wake up moment of, wow, this is what money's doing to me, that I'm so upset about the fact that this person took all this money. It was like taking money off of my family's table, right? Is how I looked at it. And I was so upset about that. And just sitting there in my being so upset, I was like, I can't allow money to do this to me. And then that's when I really had the realization I could always make it back. And, we went through the legal proceedings and went through all of that, and actually came out on the other side with a way bigger blessing out of it. I didn't see it at that time, and it was very stressful. People don't see that stress, and they don't see those types of situations. And especially when it's money involved, you get like, and it's not just $1,000 or $500. Even then, that's a lot to people, depending on where they're at in life. To me, I mean, when that person took $20,000, man, dude, that was everything to me. I literally just wanted to like crawl up in a ball and die.
That was probably everything you had.
Yeah. And, years later, it's 10x that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's going to come a moment later on in the future where it's going to be $1 million, $2 million, or something crazy.
Let's pray no, but
but
that the bigger
it could happen,
the business, the bigger
and you never
the issue.
know.
Yeah.
Because dude, people come out of nowhere with all kinds of, dude, it's like my partner and I laugh about it now, but it's like when we think a situation is resolved, another situation comes up that requires attorneys. And you always hear these real estate gurus and people that are really heavily involved in real estate. It's like your best friends are going to be your CPAs, your attorneys, and your lenders, And I'm like, that's couldn't be more true. But you have to, I've learned, you just have to, and in that moment, I sat back and we talked about this is just be grateful and have that gratitude of like, what are the good things in my life?
Yep.
What are the, like, I'm healthy, you know, I have a roof over my head. And I had to really take a step back and remind myself of that. And God really like giving me that peace. And, you know, it got resolved, but ultimately it was difficult. For anyone to say they go through a certain situation or a season like that and say that it wasn't difficult, you know, they clearly didn't go through anything. They're just lying about their, for me, I want to just be vulnerable and be like, yeah, you're going to go through those seasons in business and in life. And it's just being able to stay consistently and showing up every single day, even if you don't see the needle moving.
Yep.
Just put up one foot in front of the other.
Yep. Keep moving, man. That's a big part. And you know, again, the books I've read just on mindset, you know, training yourself, it's important because we are imperfect, right? And there are days where the emotions and the thoughts and just the mental side will eat you alive.
Yeah.
And because we are not perfect, can we train ourselves for it? Of course. But, you know, something that I think we align with very well is when you have a servant heart and you're willing to, at the drop of a dime, even when somebody does do you wrong, of course, let's take the necessary steps, but being able to look at that person and say, hey, they're clearly missing something in their life. There's a void there. There's something they're going through, and looking at it in optimism, but also, of course, making sure you're taking care of your family because that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And taking necessary steps forward. Because at the end of the day, we're all just imperfect people trying to, you know, fill this void in our life. Some of us have found ways to do it, and in other ways, you know, again, I think where I know it stands true for my wife and I in those hard days, where we're going through it with a couple guests right now in some of our properties that we manage, where you feel like you're not just like wiping their feet, but you're cleaning between their toes too. And some of the times, again, you'll have those days where it's just like, why do I do this? But you have to swallow the pill and just remember why you do it, because you're in it to make other people's lives great.
Yep.
And you learn kind of through that process. And then my wife will do the same thing. Sit down, let's pray.
Yep.
Let's talk through this. Why do you think this is a big deal? And in my mind at the moment, it's impactful, but then you get to kind of zoom out, right? Like I'm looking at the ant, and you zoom out and you see this whole world of just blessings. So
yeah. And then I try to tell myself, I'm like, in 10 years, am I going to remember the situation?
Yeah.
Is it going to bother me? And in most cases, usually not, you know, it's going to resolve. And yeah, but that's it's a little bit about the reality of like just doing anything. And you have to be willing to accept it, because I truly believe God will, through every season as you go through it, because I will say we're on the other side of it, and things have been, praise God, going better. And this has been definitely a way better year than last year. Last year was definitely probably my most stressful year in the last 8 years that I've been in business and just being an entrepreneur and everything. But praise God, like the next level up is amazing. And God truly will test you during those. Who are you going to trust? You're going to trust yourself? You're going to trust other people to do things for you? Because no, you can't. And for me, I put my trust in him more and more each and every time that I go through those types of seasons.
Yep.
So.
And then you get the divine intervention of being able to meet other awesome entrepreneurs, and who knows what may come from it.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening, Serg and I met last week.
Yeah.
Or less than a week ago, 5 days ago.
Yeah, Sunday.
Shook hands at a car show, literally have spent 20 minutes of our life together.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's just I immediately, so again, I know it was kind of an ordained thing. I immediately felt comfortable around you, which is always great. But then you just being willing to, you're over here for some meetings, but hey dude, I'll come in, spend a couple hours, chat over a podcast, and you know, 5-6 days later, you know, it's a huge blessing and something that I don't take for granted. But again, when you find people that, you know, are rooted in the same thing, that's usually an early tell that would be a smart network to, you know, continue to latch onto. And that's what I always encourage people. Don't just jump into something that looks like the shiny object, right? Yeah. Always make sure you not are only vetting the numbers, the process, asking people who have already done it for advice, but making sure it's with the right people. Because at the end of the day, the numbers may look great, the partnership may look great, the ROI may look great, but 2 years in, you may be
Yeah.
completely regretting you making yourself 10K a month. Let's say it's an awesome business opportunity, but you're miserable with who you're working with.
Yep.
That will very much change that 10K and make it feel like zero really quick.
Yeah. You'll realize the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but yeah, dude, I greatly appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Would love to continue having some of these podcasts. Maybe next time we have a podcast together, I'll be working with you.
Dude, yeah.
But
I'm down.
But yeah, man, it's been a blessing getting to know you, learn a little bit about the assisted living space, you know, figuring out what this niche can really showcase in terms of a financial blessing.
Yep.
But then also, you know, not shying away from, you have to have a heart. You are working with people who need you.
The biggest thing that I realize, you know, talking to so many people in the real estate space, I guess when it comes back to it all, is what I love about it is the impact that we get to make, and a true impact. When families get to come tell you, like we recently closed on a facility out in Mesa, a 35 bed that we're increasing to 50 beds. It's a beautiful center, but it was an absentee owner. Place wasn't being run very efficiently. I mean, they stayed full, which was surprising, but is because of location and things like that. But place hadn't been updated since he ever owned it. Like you could just tell it was being neglected in a way. And we stepped in with our ownership and we purchased it, and you know, our operator and stuff there. And man, we just brought that place to life. And families just being like, this place is so different. It's like 360, you know? And all it took was some love, man. All it took was some attention and and seeing that instant impact that you get to have in that community, in that facility, with those residents, with those families. And like, it's amazing. And that's what I love about it, is that like we get to in real time make this massive impact, and people really truly giving you feedback on that and letting you know, like, this is amazing. We, like, mom and dad have been so much happier since you guys have taken ownership, and like, we're happy with you guys, and your staff's amazing. And like, dude, it's just, that's what I love about this niche more than any other niche. Like Airbnb is cool because you get to provide cool experiences to people that come. And like, I love that. I love when I get to like go stay somewhere, like, I'm not going to lie, the Ritz-Carlton, right? You go there and you see the experience that you get, or in a cool Airbnb, and you see how well it is and the way you're serviced and everything. It's like, my God, I'd come here every day if I could, you know, and that's how it should be. And so that's what I love about our niche, is that we get to just truly provide that. It's not just another value add opportunity where you flip a couple units and you're, you know, increasing the rent. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, that there's something for everybody out there. But that's what I get to at night sleep really good and know, like, man, I love the fact that families just love it and they get to share those experiences and feedback with us.
That's awesome, dude. Well, yeah, I always love to wrap up with where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about what you do, learning more about assisted living, following you, right? If they just are scared to reach out and just want to watch your stuff.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So I'm on YouTube. That's my biggest platform. That's Serg, S-E-R-G, and then my last name, Lupescu, L-U-P-E-S-C-U. You go on there, I think I have over 400 something videos. It's years and years of content on there. And then on Instagram, it's same, S-E-R-G, and then .Lupescu on Instagram. And you guys can come follow me there if you want. I mean, I put out reels and content on there as well. On TikTok too, I'm on there. But then I have my community. And then Legion Assisted Living Academy is really where like my other resources and things that I offer that people can go and purchase and learn and stuff. So
awesome, man. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on today.
Course,
again, we'll have to do something here in the near future, business together or not.
Yeah.
Always love to see where people are in 6 months to a year.
Yep.
And you know, have the listeners be able to see how you're growing, right? Because that just builds trust. You know, if they see you continuing to succeed, and maybe hey, this Serg guy sounds great, and I watched all his videos after the first podcast. Let's see how he's doing in 6 months. Sometimes it's just a little bit more growth that people want to see before they jump on the ship.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Always love doing the return visits, and
of course,
super proud of you for what you're up to, the mindset you have, and just the individual you are, dude. It's been a blessing to meet you so far.
No, it's been a pleasure, brother. And yeah, I look forward to the next one.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.